What's going on YouTube? My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel Superbike Life. In my last video, I mentioned that in this video, we are going to be working on my Trek S1000RR, and that's exactly what we're going to do right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Today what I'm working on are front brakes and full exhaust, and depending on how much we get done today, it may be broken into two videos or what have you. But as you can see, I've taken off most of the body work, removed the front fender, and just did some prep work so I wouldn't have to, go through all the nonsense in video and record that stuff that you guys don't want to see. What we're going to be doing is I got a full Arrows exhaust, complete with headers. We're going to be replacing that, and I'm going to be replacing the front brake pads. I have some new SBS dual compound brake pads for the S1000RR. The last time I had this out on track, you guys remember that I swapped the M4 Brembo calipers that were on the MV, as well as the 19 RCS master cylinder that were on the MV. I swapped them over to the BMW and swapped the BMW stuff over to the MV. Well, I was going into a couple of turns, grabbed a handful of brakes, and the bike didn't stop. So we're going to change out the brake pads. I don't know what pads were in the MV. When I looked at them, it looks like they were just generic OEM pads, where these are specific race pads. Now, I'm used to performance friction race pads, but I got a smoking deal on these SBS dual compound pads, and these are just for the track. You don't want to use these on the street because they require some heat. So don't go out and get yourself a set of dual compound pads for the street. You might not like how they perform, but these are supposed to have great initial bite and so forth. But what we have to do to make sure of that, we got to take the rotors off of the wheel, sand them down to remove all of that old pad material, clean them up, and then put them back on. That way we can put our pads on and go through a bedding process and all that other good stuff. But we got to do that. The other thing that I'm going to do, as I mentioned, I have a full Arrows exhaust, complete with headers, slip-on, and everything. And what we're going to do is once the front wheel is off, I'll have access to the radiator. We'll move the radiator off, and then I'll have complete access to the header bolts. And I want to bang up my knuckles or bend up radiator fins trying to get to that. So we're going to do all of that, hopefully, most likely in two videos. But enough talk, let's get to work. So what I've already done here is I've already removed the safety wire from the lower pinch bolts here, as well as I loosened up these rotor bolts. And I'll tell you what I do here. These rotor bolts can be a pain in the butt. They all have Loctite on them, and there's a lock ring behind them, and it's a T30 Torx, I believe. So what I do is I use a little bit of heat, put the heat gun on it a little bit, and then I loosen them up. That tends to loosen up any of the Loctite that's in there that may have gunked up. It loosens that up and just makes these easier to remove. How do I know that? Because, well, I've broken more than one Torx bit removing these bolts at one time or another. So a little heat gun, Harbor Freight, like 15 bucks, doesn't cost much. Apply a little heat, and then these should loosen up. So I've already loosened them up. I haven't taken them all the way off, but I'll remove them once we get the wheel out of the way. So what I need to do now is I need to remove the safety wire that's on this caliper over here. I've actually already gone ahead and removed the caliper that's on the other side, just so I can even check to see which pads were in there. Okay. Yeah. Slide these off nice and easy so you don't ruin the wheels. Scratch those up. Take those out of there. And now I have my ridiculously long bungee cord. And there we go. So now all I need to do is loosen up these pinch bolts, grab my tool, and remove the axle. go. Let me grab a quick towel here. Clean up my hands. All right, so I'm going to take this over to my toolbox. I'll bring the camera over there and show you what we're going to do next. All right, guys, so I'm over here. I have my wheel on top of my tool chest with a cotton rag under it so it doesn't ruin the other rotor. And like I said, I've already removed these. Again, take a heat gun, apply some heat to them, and then go to remove them. These are semi-removed, so I'm just going to finish the process here. And there you could see, hold on, there you go. And you could see some of the Loctite crud that's on there. So when you're removing these, obviously, if you haven't done this before, make note of the orientation of the rotor. I've gone ahead and just, I'm sure there's a marking, but I've gone ahead and put a yellow dot on here just so I know that that is the right side rotor. Okay, and now these just slide up and off. That's all there is to it. So now we'll flip it over, we'll set this aside. And we'll do the same thing on this side. And this pops off, and there we go. So now what I'll do is I'll stop the camera, I'll take both rotors into the house, I'll wash them up with soap and water just to knock off this stuff, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. So I'll be right back. All right, welcome back, people. So I've cleaned up the rotors, just some soap and water, nothing spectacular. And now what I have is a pneumatic sander, excuse me. Now what I have here is a pneumatic sander. You can also use a hand sander if you want to, or even a wire wheel. What we want to do is we want to clean the old pad material off this surface. Now we don't want to sand this down and groove it all up, but we want to do a light sanding to remove all of the old pad material on both sides, which is why we take it off of the wheel. Otherwise we can only do one side and only halfway. But you can use a drill if you don't have air-powered tools. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the sanding that we did. So now I'll take them back in the house. I'll give them another soap and water bath, and I'll be right back. All right, I am back. The rotors are all cleaned, sanded and washed, and I think we're good to go there. So before we put them back on the wheels, what I'm going to do, actually before I do that, where is it? On each rotor, I'll try to bring this in here so that you can see it. There is a minimum, you can see right there, a minimum thickness. This says 4.5 millimeters. So you should measure them before you do all that cleaning and everything. I've already measured mine, and they are, but I'll do it again. Get yourself a decent digital caliper or a regular caliper and measure them. And I'll measure mine. So mine are measuring out at 4.91. Oh, if you could see that. 4.89 millimeters. So I am still within spec. Let's measure the other one. These are measuring, coming in at 4.96 millimeters. So I am still within spec on both rotors. They don't need to be replaced. I got plenty of thickness on them. So we're good there. So make sure you do that. You don't want to waste a whole bunch of effort when your rotors are too thin. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tap and die set like I always do, and I'm going to clean up the nuts and bolts. I'm just going to run these through a few times on each nut, or bolt I should say, not nut. Just to clean out the thread locker and thread seal and all the other good stuff that was on here. All right, and I'll continue to do that till all the bolts are done, but let's just say for shits and giggles they are done. And I'll do the same thing on the wheel. I'll just take my tool again, and you probably can't see this, but there's a lot of crud in here. So I'm just take this tool, run it down in here nice and easy to clean out the threads. All right, and I'll do that to all the holes on both sides, and then we'll put all the rotors and everything back on. So I will stop the camera now and jump to when I have everything reinstalled. Okay guys, so I got everything cleaned up, got all the bolts and the holes all cleaned up. Now I am just reassembling them. And I will bring these down just so they're snug, and then I will torque them up in a crisscross pattern. Now the torque specs for the side with the ring is 8 Newton meters, excuse me, 70 inch pounds or 8 Newton meters. And for the side without the ring, it's 9 Newton meters or about 79 inch pounds. Inch pounds, not foot pounds. And that is for the BMW cast wheels, the stock wheels. If you have some type of other wheel, BSTs, Carrazeras, or Carrazeras, I think that's how you pronounce that, whatever. If you have some other type of wheel, then you want to check with that manufacturer on their torque specs. And don't just use the BMW ones because they may be too high, too low, what have you. All right. So those are just snug. And now I'm going to torque them down. I lost a little retaining ball on this. Okay, and then we'll double check. All right. Flip it over. Grab the other rotor. This side. So while I'm doing this, I want to talk to you guys about a couple of things. First is spoiler alert for World Superbike this weekend at Phillip Island in Australia. So spoiler alert, if you haven't watched that race or races yet, give this a pause, go watch it, and then come back. But the new Ducati V4R in the hands of Alvaro Bautista, good googa mooga, man. I think Johnny Ray has his hands full. Bautista going 3 for 3, and yes, there are 3 rounds or 3 races at each round this year. So there's, you know, the typical Saturday and Sunday race like they always do, but then there's a TISO Super Pole race in between. It's a 10-lap sprint that determines the starting order for the second race on Sunday, which is, I don't know if I like it or not, but it's more racing. So It's good for the fans. We get our money's worth. But man, Alvaro Bautista spanked the field. Spanked the field on the new Ducati V4R in its debut, his debut. Went 3 for 3. He won both races by a combined total of like 30 some odd seconds. It wasn't even close. Johnny Ray said I had nothing for him. Tom Sykes looked pretty good for a little while on the new S1000RR, but it's clear BMW and that team needs to find some, needs to find some straightaway speed because they were getting spanked by virtually everything on the straights. They were just blowing by that bike. I don't know what the heck is going on with Honda. Leon Camier was buried in the way back for most of the weekend. Couldn't get anything going. Really disappointing from Camier and Ducati because I know Leon is a really, really good rider. He's been around for a while and he knows what he's doing, but for whatever reason, that CBR just is not working. Chaz Davis finished way in the back. He's still not healthy. He had a couple of off-season surgeries and things, and he's still not quite healthy. So he finished in the way back. But the Yamahas look strong this year. Leon Haslam looks really good as Ray's counterpart on the factory Cowie team. So racing should be good, or at least we should have someone winning races other than Johnny Ray this year. Alvaro Bautista, if he stays healthy, can stay on the bike. He looks really, really good. All right, so the front wheel is done. Got the rotors all back on there. It's ready to go back on the bike, but before we do that, jump down here. Before we do that, I'm going to start working on the radiator and get it removed, and then we'll probably call that a wrap for this episode, and I'll get the exhaust installed in the next one. So, I don't know why I'm doing this. I should have just adjusted the camera. Like that. I should have just adjusted the camera and done that, but I don't know, whatever. But this is all set. It's ready to go back on the bike. Let me get over to the radiator and we'll start removing stuff over there. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the radiator. We'll worry about putting the pads actually in the calipers later. That's not critical mass right now. So I want to get this radiator off. I've already gone ahead and drained the radiator. So now I just need to start removing items that are connected to it. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about the race this past weekend, World Superbike race. Alvaro Bautista dominating everything. What else? A couple of you guys left comments on my last video where I changed my own tires with my Newmar manual tire changer. Some of them seemed a little sarcastic. Some of them, just kind of funny. I get that. And others were probably serious. Yes, I save, $20, $25, whatever it is a dealer normally charges you to mount and balance tires that they didn't sell. But again, I have 4 bikes. 2 of them are track bikes, so I'm changing tires on the track bikes all the time. If I just had street bikes and I put, somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 miles a year on them, and I change my tires once and a half a year, then no, I'd probably just take it to the dealer or whatever and have them change it. Wouldn't deal with it. But again, when you're on track, in a race weekend, you can burn through a couple of sets of tires, not just one, but you can burn through a couple of sets of tires. Doing just track days, typically you can get 3, 4, maybe even 5 track days out of a set of tires. If you're not super aggressive, if you're a very experienced rider, then you'll be lucky to get 1 or 2 track days out of them, and then you're changing them again. So again, this Nomar manual tire changer has already paid for itself. I've changed enough sets of tires so I don't have to worry about that. But again, you're right. If I was just a regular casual guy riding on the street, changing my tires once, maybe twice a year, I would just take it to the dealer and wouldn't deal with that and, so forth and so on. What else? What else can I talk to you guys about? A number of you have left comments on the video that I did on the K&L table lift and the accessories. And I'm not talking about the unboxing when I first got it. I'm talking about where I had the problem with the paint chipping, which I still have. And some of you left comments like, I don't understand or don't know that paint's not going to stay in that area. I'm fully aware that paint is not going to stay in that area. It's a 1,000-pound table lift. Those rollers are rolling on there. Every time I lift and put this table up or down, it's rolling on there. Paint is certainly not going to stay there. I get that. However, my problem was number one, bad customer service when I called in. They knew that paint is not going to stay in that area. I knew that paint was not going to stay in that area. But instead of offering some type of reasonable explanation or reasonable solution to this problem, which I really shouldn't have, they offered me touch-up paint. Now again, I know that paint's not going to stay in that area, and they've already admitted that paint's not going to stay in that area, so why give me touch-up paint so that would just continue to fall off? That didn't make any sense to me. The second problem is that this isn't a $300 or $400 cheap Harbor Freight table. This is a top quality table. It's a commercial grade table. It's used in a number of professional motorcycle shops, repair shops, and things of that nature. I spent somewhere between $200 and $2,400 for the table and all the accessories. It's a top quality table. And I didn't expect a top quality table, the paint to be falling off the second day that I've used it. So that's my gripe. I'm a big customer service person. No one does customer service really well. And I paid a lot of money for this table, and I didn't expect the paint to fall off the very next day. That's uncalled for. And I wasn't bashing them. I love the table. The chipping paint doesn't mean that it can't be used or it's somehow dysfunctional. It means that I'm unsatisfied as a customer. I shelled out my good hard-earned money. K&L is not a sponsor. None of my sponsors have purchased this table for me. My hard-earned cash paid for this table, and I paid retail for it. So I don't feel like I got my money when my $2,400 investment is chipping the paint the very next day. So that was my concern. One person even commented that he wouldn't even sell me the table. How could I bash them like that, so forth and so on. Well, I didn't buy it directly from them. I bought it from a vendor. In order to buy this table, you actually, I'll back up. In order to buy this table and equipment directly from K&L, you have to be a licensed and bonded and insured shop owner. They ask you for your tax ID and all of those good things. If you don't have that, you can't buy directly from them. You have to buy from a vendor. I purchased mine from bestbuyautoequipment.com. They seem to have the best prices here in the US, although I've seen some overseas that have better pricing. But yeah, this is a commercial grade table, and I expected commercial grade quality, and I didn't get that with the chipping paint. Everything else has been fantastic, although one of my viewers told me that the hydraulic hoses and pedals over there, they're probably going to fail soon. But so far, they've been good, so I won't jinx myself. But yeah, that was my point. It wasn't to bash K&L. It was just to tell you guys truly how my customer service experience went. I did that. K&L didn't feel like that was appropriate, so they contacted me like almost a day after that video posted and apologized and actually kicked me some money back, believe it or not, on the table because of the paint issue. But they admitted that the paint shouldn't have been in there. They said that their future tables don't have that industrial level paint in that area and they won't chip. But now I've got to go in there and scrape it all off because that paint just continues to fall off. There are roller bearings in there, and the last time I checked, lubricated roller bearings and debris don't mix. So now I got to go and scrape all that crap off. But back to this. So I'm going to remove the hoses here, and I'm sure even though I've drained it, that more fluid is going to fall out. So I got my trusty bucket ready here. There we go. Hold please while I find another bucket. Had to replace the battery in the camera. It was about to die. All right, so we're almost there. So what else is going on here? I still have no word on I still have no word on the Newton, I still have no word on the Norton V4RR. I do have some good news that a local dealer is going to be carrying them here soon, which is really good news because otherwise they did have to go to California all the way to Austin, Texas to get one. But that's really, really cool that we're going to have a Norton dealer here locally. The problem is that there's still no U.S. pricing. And we have no idea when it's going to be here. And my dealer, or the dealer that I've been working with in California, they continue to reach out to me every month to let me know. And most of his updates are, no news, Derek, still have nothing on it. I've actually reached out to Norton UK directly, and they've given me the same type of information. Sorry, no new news. We don't know. So no one, I'm starting to doubt that this motorcycle will actually ever get here. That motorcycle debuted a long time ago, and it's still not here. So I'm starting to doubt whether they're actually going to produce the bike or not. I'm not convinced that they are. I don't know why. It's not their first bike. That bike has been competing in different events, like the Isle of Man and a number of those other road races that you guys know I love so much. But no idea when it's going to hit the U.S. shores. I think I'm just about ready to remove the radiator. I still have fluid in the overflow tank, but that should be okay. I'm going to cap it right now, just as a precaution. Why are you not going in there? There we go. I'm still screwed to the The other thing that struck me as a little bit odd with World Superbike this year is we knew that MV there was a high likelihood that they weren't going to have an offering this year, and they don't. They pretty much said that they were going to pull out of World Superbike, and they have. So there's no MV in the World Superbike series, although they are still competing with DeRosa and the World Super Sport series. But what was a bit surprising is that there's no Suzuki and there's no Aprilia. The Sean Muir team, which was Milwaukee Aprilia last year, switch riders, switch bikes. They're now campaigning, and they are the factory team for BMW. So that pretty much left Aprilia with no ride, no one. They don't want a factory team. Like anybody else, they could have started their own factory team, but they decided not to go that route, and they want to be a factory. They want to be a support, I should say, to someone else's team, and no one, because the bike is relatively uncompetitive and Superbike trim. They got nothing. slide the radiator out and set it aside. So again, that was a bit surprising. Never really thought about factory Suzuki or Aprilia not being in the series, but that wasn't their choice. They simply don't want to, again, to front the expenditures, the cost of having your own team. They much rather have someone else on the team and then provide support. And there's no one running the new RSV4. So that leaves Aprilia out in the cold, not competing. There's never been talk of a factory Suzuki team, so not surprising there that there's no team there. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. So now I have access to all the bolts in here, and I can start loosening those up. But before I do that, I need to get the front wheel back on, because the only way to get enough clearance to get the front wheel off is to use the Superbike swing arm kit or support kit and prop it up under the stainless steel headers. So if I start to remove the bolts for the headers, then there's nothing holding this puppy up. So I got to get the front wheel back on, so then it'll sit on the front wheel and I don't have to worry about it toppling over. So I'm not going to worry about putting on the calipers or anything like that. Or the correct torque specs and all that other good stuff. I'm just going to make sure that it's on here and that it can support the weight of said bike. That's my goal here. There we go. Front wheel is on. It won't fall off on me. All right, now I can lower this down. And I can set this aside. And now I can start getting to those bolts under there. And I should have sprayed these with WD-40 last night. But I'll hit them now and I'll give them a minute to set up. All right, be back in a few minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's been a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and loosen up these headers some more. It's also time for an oil change on this bike, oil and filter change. So I'll be doing a whole lot of maintenance on it before my next track day, which is a good segue. Motul is now my oil sponsor. I switched sponsors from previous oil company, and I'm super excited that Motul is on board now. I have a lot of stuff on order with them, oils and coolant additives and 660 brake fluid that will replace whatever the hell that is in there that I put in there a few weeks ago. So super excited about that. Like all my sponsors, they are not a financial sponsor. They just provide heavy discounts on products. So I'm still paying for things, just not retail. And I'm sure you guys know that their V line of oils is very expensive. And it helps a lot that I don't have to pay retail for that stuff. And I'm super excited about that. So be on the lookout for more from me and Motul in the future. Now, some of you may be wondering, where do I get my sponsors? Well, sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and you got to just talk to people in person, email, phone, whatever, and just talk to people. I don't have any race results under my belt right now, so I'm just a track day guy. I was hoping to start racing last month and this month with Chuck Walla, but that hasn't panned out. The bike and myself are simply not ready. I was hoping to have secured a tire sponsor by now. That hasn't happened, so I got to pay for all these tires myself, and I simply don't have the budget at the moment. But yeah, I pick up the phone, I talk to people, the people that work on my bikes, the people I have relationship with at several dealerships and shops in town. I speak with them. And then the other place I'm having pretty good luck is hookit.com. So HOOKIT.com, hookit.com. It's a site that hooks up vendors that are looking for people in various sports to advertise and promote their product with individuals like me or you that are looking for sponsorship. And depending on who you hook up with, it's not a dating site, so I'm sorry, hookup is probably not the right word. But depending on what you do, your results and things of that nature will vary on the types of sponsorships you get. And it's everything from a full cash sponsor to support, which is basically what I've been getting. So I still buy my own products and items, but they're at discounts from various people, or organizations. But hookit.com, look it up. It's worked out pretty well for me. That's how I managed to find Motul and a couple of my other sponsors. All right, so the headers are ready to come off, so I'm just going to support it from the bottom and start to pull these things off. Hopefully I don't tear up anything too much. Go. All right, so that support in the middle is going to have to come out. All right, so after fighting with this thing for a little bit, I have finally won the battle. Here we go. And it is off. So this is primarily why, excuse me, let me come over here. So this is a Austin Racing decat pipe. So the previous one, this was all one unit, and a catalytic converter was here. So it was cut off, and then this link pipe from Austin Racing was put in its place, and then you can just connect the slip-on of your choice. But as you can see, this link pipe has been deformed, and this was causing two problems. One, it was blowing off on the racetrack. The slip-on just kept blowing right off on here on the racetrack as well as on the dyno. And this was an area of exhaust leak, so I was losing back pressure from here as well. So we're going to get rid of all of this and put on a new to me Arrow's complete racing system. So I'm just going to remove the O2 sensor here. And set that aside. So I think I'm going to call that a wrap for today. I'll finish up the brakes and the install on another video. But I think for today, for this video at least, I think we are going to call it a wrap and wrap things up. So let me clean up a little bit here and then I'll be right back. Well, that's it for today, guys. I'm calling it quits. We got the rotors off, cleaned, sanded, reinstalled. We got the radiator removed and we got our headers and the rest of the exhaust removed. In the next episode, I'm going to drain the oil. We're going to reinstall the radiator and fill it. And we're going to change the oil filter. We're going to clean the air filter and we're going to install our new Arrows exhaust, all in the next episode. But until next time, I'm Derek. This is your Superbike Life. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it if you didn't like it. Until next time, guys, take care.